So in this week's video, I'm sharing 5 ways to start recovering from codependency in relationships. I'm going to help you narrow the focus so that you know exactly what you should be working on right now. But first, if you're new, my name's Michelle Ferris. I'm a psychotherapist, and I love helping people create relationships at work. So basically, codependency is a pattern of behavior where you focus on others at your own expense, even when it hurts you, even when it causes you pain, because you're really focused on getting that love, attention, and approval from other people because you can't give it to yourself. So in codependency recovery, the process is to learn how to build a healthy relationship with yourself so that you can establish healthier relationships without that unhealthy dependency. So let's get started. So how you're going to start to recover from codependency in relationships is you're going to follow the pain. And what I mean by that is pain is a great motivator, and it really gets our attention fast. And I'm going to give you 5 scenarios that people come into when they're starting codependency recovery. If you relate to one or all of them, you're in the right place. So usually, for instance, myself in my own codependency recovery, I came in because I wanted to fix a relationship. I did not want to fix myself. That was where my motivation was. So that is what I focused on. And that's part of the reason why I lasted so long, is because I followed my pain. Your pain might be different. So I'm going to give you 5 different scenarios on what you might be dealing with so that you know exactly what your work is in terms of codependency recovery. So the first one is if you're feeling depressed because you're afraid of losing a relationship. Your motivation most likely is to heal that relationship, right? Makes sense. But here's the thing. You need to shift that a little bit because you can't necessarily heal the entire relationship by yourself because the other person is still doing their part. But you can focus on healing your own relationship behavior. And that's where you want to dive into what codependent symptoms are really causing you pain and creating problems in your relationship. Like, for instance, are you putting all your emotional eggs in one person's basket so they feel smothered or trapped and don't really want to spend time with you? Another one is, are you giving so much that they're basically just taking at this point? Or you're over-functioning. You're doing everything for the other person, but you're not allowing yourself to receive. These are very common relationship patterns, but the first task in recovery is to find out what yours are, because everybody is going to have a different starting place. So write down 3 or 4 codependent behaviors that you know right now are causing you a lot of pain, because that's where you're going to be motivated. So the next way you're going to follow the pain is if you're feeling afraid and panicked about being alone because you're sandwiching yourself with a lot of friends and you can't tolerate being alone, or you stay with toxic people as romantic partners because you can't be alone. This indicates a relationship addiction. I know for me, I did this several times in my early recovery because I couldn't stand being by myself. So part of how you start codependency recovery is you need to start cultivating a relationship with yourself. And I always say this is not the sexy part. This is not the part I wanted to do in the beginning. But I tell you, if I did, it would have made a world of difference in how much more progress I would have made. So what I want you to do is start finding out, what are your likes? What are your dislikes? I want you to start spending some quality time with yourself. If that scares you because of the feelings underneath, commit to 10 minutes. Or you're going to either do something or sit still and read and literally try to get comfortable being with yourself. I love now going to the movies alone, shopping alone. I don't really need to have somebody else with me. But in the beginning, I couldn't do that. It was way too scary to be alone with myself because I had so much pain underneath. So if that's you, I want you to start slowly cultivating a relationship with yourself. And part of that is building self-trust. I have a journal that I created just for this because this is a huge process in early recovery. But a quick way to start is to just start paying attention to your intuition. What are those little gut checks that you're ignoring? And instead, I want you to listen and stop and say, okay, wait a minute, I need to pay attention. My gut is turning right now. Something isn't right, and I need to pay attention. That's what I want you to start doing, because that is going to be a huge step in your codependency recovery. This will also help break that unhealthy dependency you have on others, because the more you start to cultivate a relationship with yourself, the more you're going to be able to be choosier in your relationships. And it won't be so scary to be alone. If you've ever had the fear of being alone, say me too in the comments. Believe me, this was a huge fear of mine and I actually got over it, and you can too. So the next feeling I want you to follow is if you're feeling resentful or taken advantage of. This is huge for people who struggle with codependency because you're probably not setting boundaries. Boundaries help control your time and your energy. But here's an easy way to start boundaries. I want you to think about what situations you want to participate in and what situations you don't want to participate in. And start there, because that's the easiest way to start setting boundaries. So for instance, if your friend asks you to go to the bar and you really don't want to go to the bar because they're doing too much, say, oh, I'm sorry, I have other plans, I can't do that. And I would always start, especially if you're new in recovery, with people you feel safest with, because those are the people that are likely going to not have a big reaction and are going to support you along the way because they want you to feel better. So another thing you might need to do is figure out what your boundaries are. I talked about that in a recent video where boundaries are really based on your own personal values and what's important to you in a relationship. That might be the first step in your recovery, is to just figure out what your boundaries actually are. Because boundaries protect you from harm, and that's what I want for you. And so the next feeling I want you to follow is if you notice that you take things personally a lot. This is another really common one when you struggle with codependency. Your recovery is going to need to focus on challenging and identifying old beliefs and negative assumptions that are probably based in childhood. So seeking therapy is a really good idea when starting codependency recovery, because when we start to go back into our childhood where those really deep wounds are and where we're really reacting a lot, having a trusted therapist that focuses on these issues is going to help you a lot. Because if you take things personally and you've heard things like, oh, you're just being sensitive, you might even be blaming yourself for how you're reacting. Instead, I want you to realize that there's a reason why you're taking things personally, and I guarantee it goes back to something in your past where you were criticized a lot and you learned to take the blame for things. And if somebody else got upset around you, it may have led to abuse. So there are always reasons why we react the way we do. So if that's an issue for you, your focus in your recovery is going to need to include some kind of personal therapy work. The other idea is you could check out Adult Children of Alcoholics, a 12-step program, and that does deal with childhood issues. But usually when you have a lot of negative beliefs about yourself and assumptions around other people, it does go back to childhood, and it's really helpful to do that work. Now, the next feeling I want you to follow to start your codependency recovery is if you're feeling alone and isolated, like you don't have a lot of support, your goal in early recovery is going to be to build a solid support system. And this is usually done by attending Al-Anon or Coda meetings. Al-Anon and Coda are free 12-step programs that deal specifically with issues of codependency, and they're on Zoom thanks to the pandemic. This is a free program that's going to give you the support and tools you need to recover for the long haul. Because part of the reason why codependency recovery can be so scary is people try to do it by themselves, and that doesn't work. And I know for me, when I went to my first 12-step program, I felt so at home and I felt so safe because I knew I could share anything that was happening because people were vulnerable and they were kind and they welcomed me. And that's what I want for you, is a safe place for you to process your feelings and start to heal. Now, the next thing I want you to do is go watch my video on codependency recovery, the 7 key areas you need to focus on. Thanks so much.